Hi everyone. My name is Mangal and I am an alumnus of Adhiyamaan College of Engineering. I passed out in 2011 from the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. For the last 10 years, I've been working in the information technology industry in various roles. So this video, I'm just going to, share my experience about corporate communications and how is it really important in a corporate environment to communicate effectively, right? So today, the entire world, whatever be the industry that we are working on, be it information technology or any other core industry, communication becomes a key component for our success. So why is it so? So let's say you go to a shop and you are about to buy a mobile phone, right? So before going there to the shop, today we have a lot of gadgets where we use Google or other search engines, look at reviews, get to know about the product much more, and then go to the shop. So as a customer, you go with some information already into your head, and now imagine a salesperson there in that shop, right? He has to convince you, and he has to explain the product in such a way that you like it, right? So this has to happen over and above what you have known through the internet. So this is common to any business that you take. So your customer may not be a person with an open mind. He has access to it. He has access to the information that he needs. And over and above that information, it could be valid information, it could be also fake information, because there's a lot of fake messages spamming around. So it could be anything, but he has access to all of them, and now you need to convince, or you need to communicate so effectively that he is convinced and he purchases your product, right? So that's business. So unless somebody buys it, you don't have a business, right? So that's the key, why communication becomes even more important in a corporate world, right? So when I say corporate, it is not just a small group of people working together, but it's a larger ecosystem. So there will be multiple companies partnering together for a common cause. There could be multiple stakeholders involved, different people with different roles and responsibilities, right? And you're going to be one among them, and it is a very interconnected environment where you need to interact with multiple levels and different kinds of people, right? So let me give you a quick example of how your communication should be depending on your audience. So I can talk anything and everything, but it is not that effective unless you understand what I talk, right? Saying that I think I'm confusing you. So let me give you an example. So imagine you are studying electrical and electronics engineering, right? Now your brother or your cousin or your nephew, whoever it is, of age 5 or 6 years old, they approach you asking you, what are you studying at college? How would you explain that? Think of an answer to this question. Second thing, imagine it's a peer, right? So say a friend of yours, a schoolmate, coming and asking you, what do you study at college? Same question. Third, your father or mother asking you the same question. Fourth, your neighbor asking you the same question. Fifth, your professor asking you the same question. Do you think your answer to all these 5 people would be one and the same? I'm sure it would not be. But if you think that it is going to be the same, then you are not communicating effectively. So if I were to explain what I studied in electrical and electronics engineering to a 5-year-old, I would ask them to come near me, show them a switchboard, right? And if you turn this switch on, there's a light that is glowing there. How is it possible? So there's something that is happening behind it. So I study about that energy. This will be the first statement that I say. And that child would ask me the next question. I'm just putting a switch on and the light is turning on. Or I'm turning it off and it is turning off on the other side. As simple as that. Okay. Now the switch is right at the bottom, which is accessible for me, but the light is not. How is it connected? So you see, a conversation gets built. So I'm not giving them the answer saying I'm studying electrical and electronics engineering, right? So that's just the name of the department, but that's not what I study, or it's much more than what I study, right? So I have to step down to their level, give them examples in such a way that they understand. If I give the same example to my friend who is studying in a different college, in a different department, do you think he will accept it? No. So for him, it has to be, a more, a very high level answer saying, hey buddy, I'm just studying electrical and electronics engineering. That's all. You don't go deep into that. Right? But when it is somebody of an elder age, or your parents or your neighbors, they ask you in detail, then you start talking specifics. You just don't say electrical and electronics engineering, but you get into the specifics, right? Say for example, I'm studying about high voltage engineering. Bear with me for the examples because that's what I studied, right? So high voltage engineering or power electronics or circuits and machines. You get into the specifics because the audience are capable of understanding that specific. But a 5-year-old, he or she may not understand those specifics of high voltage engineering. She might not even know what current is. Then how would she or he understand high voltage engineering? Right? So that's the difference. So whenever you do a communication, understand who your audience are. That's very, very important, right? That's the first step that I would say. To whom are you going to speak, or to whom are you going to present, right? So you need to understand that. And then, so when it comes to a corporate environment, what could be the different possibilities? I'm just giving you some examples. So one, you could be as a fresher talking to your seniors, your managers, your leads, right? So in such cases, you would, in majority of scenarios, be at the receiving end, receiving their experience. But there could be scenarios where you can also present your ideas to them, saying, boss, this is a better opportunity for us to showcase, something that we could do better. How do you put it forward? Right? So think about these lines. So it is, communication is effective only when you are able to receive and as well as give something out, right? So that's a two-way communication, right? So I don't trust the word two-way communication because communication is always two ways, right? So it cannot be a one-way communication, or if it is going to be a one-way communication, it is going to be useless, right? So when it is going to be your boss, so you would at most times be at the receiving end, but if you want to go ahead and present a possibility to change, a possibility to innovate, a possibility to create, then you need to use that tone, right? I'll come back to the tone in a while. The second audience that you would need would be your peers who could also be freshers, right? So how do you interact with them? So that can be more of an informal conversation, need not be very formal. And even with your leads or managers, need not be formal always, right? But the tone in which you speak, right, you can add all your friendly annotations to address them, right? It can be buddy, or it can be any colloquial addresses that you use in your college, so it can continue there, right? So that's number 2. The third kind of audience that you would address in the near future is, so let's say you have got 1 or 2 years of experience. Now there's somebody who is joining as a fresher, so your subordinates or your reportees or your juniors. So in this scenario, you will be at the giving end, you will not be at the receiving end, right? But at the same time, you should also have in mind that you are also ready to accept what they say. So it should be two-way, as I said, right? You should always not be giving, right? In some cases, it could also become a bit of authority that you show, saying them, this is the priority that we want to do, and go ahead with it. Don't ask me to change that. It would happen, and it will definitely happen in anyone's career, right? So we need to be prepared for it. The third and fourth kind of audience that I'm going to talk about are slightly that you would start facing at a later stage in your career. It may not be in your initial days, but maybe in 2 or 3 years you would start interacting with clients, right? And also to CXOs. So what is the difference between talking to a manager and talking to a CXO? It's just a difference between talking to your father and talking to the Prime Minister. You don't go with too many specifics when it comes to the Prime Minister, right? It's going to be a bird's eye view of the situation. It's going to be the bird's eye view of your project that you will present to your CXOs. More on the revenue side, more on the profitability side, right? So they require more of statistics. But when you talk to your manager or your leads, it may not be statistics or the bird's eye view, but it would be the specifics, which is very, very important. Now the next thing, if it is going to be a client, then you may not even go to just statistics. It has to be a complete picture. At times you may have to get into the ground level, give him the specifics. At times it will be a bird's eye view. At times it can be statistical reporting. So it can be anything of this sort, right? But you need to show a tone that you are ready to help them grow their business. So that's how you need to talk to a client. Be open to listen to what they want from you, and also be open to share what you can give it to them, right? So there are two aspects to that. So when it comes to any of these audiences, right, your tone, the way in which you construct will change depending upon one important factor, the subject of your conversation. Okay, so I would at a very high level group these subjects into 3 basic classifications. One would be you proposing for a change, or for be it any kind of proposal. It can be a creativity, it can be an innovation, it can be an improvisation, it can be anything of that sort. You are just trying to propose something, and you are trying to persuade the audience to accept to what you are trying to convey. It's like selling your product. Okay, so imagine the telephone example that I said. So you are the salesman right now. So that's scenario 1. Scenario 2, you are reporting something that has happened. Okay, so I'm breaking this scenario into 2 phases. 1, you are reporting a successful event. 2, you are reporting a failure. So you need to be prepared for all these 3 subjects. One, you are proposing a plan, you're presenting it to the audience. Two, it is going to be a report of your success. And three, a report of your failure, right? So in all these three situations, I would always recommend you to follow a storytelling methodology. So what is the storytelling methodology? It will have four components, altogether, right? So the first component is called as the scenario. Set the context right. So imagine any story that you have learnt in your childhood. It always starts, once upon a time there lived a king or a queen or someone. That is setting the context, right? So what is the scenario that you are in currently? Next, number two, what is that you want to achieve, or what is the task at hand, right? So that becomes the second portion. So now imagine, relate to the stories. There were so many, there was a king who lived in a village, and this is what he was experiencing, right? So that's how they set the second portion of any story. So what were they experiencing? And now what the third thing would be, what actions that the king or the queen did, and the fourth thing, what was the outcome, right? So to remember these four things, you could search for STAR technique over the internet. It's STAR. So this is one of the techniques to answer scenario based questions in an interview, right? Behavioral questions in an interview, right? So this technique is not just for interviews, but it can be applied to any conversation that you try to build. So this video that I'm trying to make is also of the same thing. First, I set the context saying why a corporate environment is giving so much of importance to communication. I set the context right. Then I took the task at hand. What is that I'll have to do? I'll have to sell myself, sell my product, or convince customers, right? Or make them agree to what I say. So that's the task at hand. And three, what could be done? Understand your audience, understand the subject, and four, what would be the outcome? So if you are about to do all of these, I am sure you are going to be successful in communicating to anybody on any subject at any point in time, and you would have a successful career, especially in today's world where you are going to have a lot of conversations in different formats. So when I say formats, what are the formats? It can be oral communication, it can be emails, right? So when it is oral communication, it is easy to tell a story, but when it is an email, it has to be crisp, it has to be communicating all the specifics. You cannot beat around the bush. Okay, so emailing is entirely a different story altogether, but of course the basic principles remain the same. You just need to understand to whom you are writing, to whom you are addressing to, and what is going to be the subject. So that basic principles of communication remain, but how to write an email may not be as similar to how to tell a story, right? So that's the difference that you need to understand. So but having said that, it is all that we learn with practice. I'm no expert, none of us are experts, but we just learn as we make some mistakes. So go ahead, communicate well, understand your audience, understand the situation, understand the topic, and then start communicating effectively. All the best. Thank you.